was spiking like crazy. Please, no, not now, not like this. Alex, here. Bree ran in and handed me the phone. 911, what is your emergency? My grandmother's just collapsed. I found her unconscious on the floor. My eyes scanned her face, her arms, her legs. There's no sign of injury, but I don't know what happened before her fall. Her pulse is very weak. Bree started timing Nana's pulse off the kitchen clock while the operator took my name and address. Sir, I'm dispatching an ambulance to your house right now. The first thing you want to do is make sure she's still breathing, but try not to move her. It's possible she injured her spine when she fell. I understand. I won't move her. Let me check. Nana's face was angled toward the floor. I leaned down and held the back of my hand to her mouth. At first, it seemed like forever. There was nothing, but then I felt a faint movement of air. She's breathing, but barely, I said into the phone. A soft rattle came from Nana's chest. Please hurry. I think she's dying. Chapter 23. Dispatch talked me through something called a modified jaw thrust to help open Nana's airway. It was all nightmarish and surreal in the worst way I could imagine. I took hold of the curved part of her jaw and pushed it forward and up, using my thumb to keep her lips open. Her breathing picked up, but only slightly, and not a regular cadence. Then Ali's voice came from behind me, soft and scared. Why is Nana on the ground like that? Daddy, what happened to her? He was standing in the kitchen door, holding onto the frame as if he didn't want to be pushed any further into the room than that. Bree put a hand over mine on Nana's cheek. I've got her, she said, and I went to talk to Ali. Nana's sick, and she fell down. That's all it is, I told him. An ambulance is going to come and take her to the hospital. Is she going to die? Ali asked, and tears flooded his gentle eyes. I didn't answer, but I kept my arms around him, and we stood in the doorway to the kitchen. The one thing I couldn't do right now was leave Nana. We're going to stay right here, and we're going to think about how much we love Nana, okay? Ali nodded slowly without taking his eyes off her. Daddy? I turned and saw Janny in the hall. She was even more shocked and wide-eyed than her brother. I motioned her over, and we all waited together for the ambulance to arrive. Finally, we heard a low siren outside. In a strange way, it seemed to make everything worse. Once the EMTs got there, they took Nana's vitals and started her on oxygen. What's her name? One of them asked. Regina. The word almost stuck in my throat. Nana's name means queen, of course, and that's what she is to us. Regina? Can you hear me? The tech pushed a knuckle into her sternum, and she didn't move. No pain response. Let's get a heart rhythm. They asked me a few more questions while they worked. Was she on medication? Had her condition changed since we called 911? Was there any history of heart trouble with her or in the family? I kept a hand on Ali the whole time, to let him know I was there, but vice versa too. Janny stayed right by my side as well. Within minutes, the EMTs had started a saline lock. Then they slid a collar around Nana's neck and put a backboard under her. Janny finally buried her face in my side, sobbing quietly. That got Ali crying again, and Bree too. We're a mess, I finally managed. That's why she can't leave us. They lifted Nana's tiny body onto a stretcher, and we followed them through the dining and living rooms, then out the front door. The familiarity of the surroundings seemed both sad and scary. Bree had disappeared for a minute, and now she came up from behind, handing me my cell, a shirt, and a pair of shoes. Then she took Ali from me and put an arm around Janny. Their faces were like mirrors of everything I was feeling. Go with Nana, Alex. We'll follow you in the car. Chapter 24.
Gabe Reese was pacing with his arms folded tightly just inside the West Wing lobby doors. He wasn't used to this kind of uncertainty, this total lack of information, the fucking mystery of it all. He had plenty of resources at his disposal. He just couldn't use most of them on this. Not until he was sure what they were dealing with. He was waiting for the vice president, and the subject was Zeus, of course, and what had been found out so far and what kind of unprecedented scandal this could turn out to be. Tillman was scheduled to address the National Association of Small Business Owners from 12:30 to 1 at the convention center. It was less than a mile and a half away, which meant maybe 5 minutes in the car. Reese was going to need every second. At exactly 12:20, the vice president strode into the lobby with the Secret Service's Dan Cormorant on one side and a deputy director of communications on the other. 2 scheduling assistants and another Secret Service agent trailed behind, the usual kind of entourage, trappings of power and arrogance. Tillman looked surprised to see Reese standing there, holding his trademark fedora in one hand. "Gabe, you're coming to this thing?" "Yes, sir, wouldn't miss it. Not a word. Not an arching eyebrow." Okay, let's go then." They continued outside where the vice president's Cadillac limo, 2 black Suburbans, and 3 motorcycle police waited with engines running. As the vice president stepped into his car, Reese put a hand on Cormorant's shoulder. "We need some privacy, Dan." The senior agent squinted in annoyance, then turned to his number 2. "Bender, take the staff car. I've got this covered." "Yes, sir." "You know that has to go into the log," Cormorant said as soon as the other agent was out of earshot. "No, it doesn't," Reese told him. There was more than enough precedent for this kind of request, even from Reese himself. Once Reese and the vice president were in the car, Cormorant got in. Then he radioed the go-ahead, and the motorcade pulled out toward 15th Street.
Chapter 25.
With a partition up and tinted bullet and soundproof glass on all sides, this was as private a meeting as they were going to get today, given the vice president's busy schedule. Reese took a quick breath. Then he started right in on what he'd found out. For one thing, the FBI and Metro Police were both pursuing the case, at least as a murder investigation. Apparently prostitutes were involved, male and female. Zeus hadn't been identified yet, if there actually was a Zeus. "I've just heard that we've got another problem." He turned to face the Secret Service agent on the jump seat. "Dan, do you know who Alex Cross is?" "MPD detective, specializes in major cases, homicides, serials. He's working on a certain murder in question." Cormorant hadn't missed a beat. "We're aware of Cross's involvement. We're watching him." "And I'm finding out about this on my own. Why?" Cormorant ticked off the vice president's wishes on 2 fingers. "No phone, no email, remember? I'll get information to you when I can get it to you, Gabe. We're talking about one homicide detective here." "Hang on," the vice president cut in. "Where are we on Zeus, Dan?" "Quickly, please," Reese added. They were already coming up on K Street, which was less crowded than usual, unfortunately. "It's complicated. There are a lot of avenues to go down. We've had some SIGINT on a private club out in Virginia. Very discreet place for meetings. It's a sex club, sir. It's possible that Zeus has been there. It's likely he has. The White House, actually the cabinet, keeps coming up, but that might be because of the code name Zeus. I hope it's no more than that." Tillman's expression darkened as he leaned in toward the Secret Service man. "And that's it? That's all you have?" "This is a murder investigation. They usually don't solve themselves. The club is called Blacksmith Farms. We have the names of several clients. The owners are mob." Tillman snapped. "Why can't we find out who Zeus is?" "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't turn over too many rocks without attracting more attention than we want. We're not even sure if Zeus actually used the club in question. There are all these swirling rumors, but nothing solid." Reese didn't like Cormorant's tone with the vice president any more than he did with himself. "Swirling rumors? Who else knows about this?" he asked. 2 senior agents in the Joint Operations Center, 1 intelligence officer, but it's all being contained. No links to the OVP at all. Cormorant gave Reese another one of his squints. "You need to calm down. It's not helping. We're moving as fast as we can, and there's lots to check. The circumstances couldn't be worse." The words "fuck you" ran through Reese's mind, but he was too savvy to lose it in front of Tillman. Still, this situation had the makings of one of the biggest bombshells to hit Washington in years. A serial killer involved with the cabinet, or attached to the White House? Sir, I'm going to recommend you designate all Secret Service logs from your detail as sensitive compartmented information until further notice. Sir, any SCI order puts your thumbprint right where you don't want it, Cormorant interjected, but simultaneously puts that information completely out of reach, Reese answered back. Tillman had the authority to bypass not just the White House Security Office on this one, but the Freedom of Information Act. Okay, Tillman nodded agreement with the Chief of Staff. It was done. Then he asked, "What about this detective, Cross? How worried do we need to be about him?" Cormorant thought for a moment. "It's hard to know until he turns something up. If he does, I'm keeping my eye on it, and if anything changes at all, I'll update you." "Not me," Tillman said firmly. "Go through Gabe. Everything goes through Gabe from now on." "Of course." Reese found he was repeatedly running a hand through his hair without even realizing it. They were just arriving at the convention center. The pressure was on to wrap this discussion up somehow. Quickly, he said, "Anything else I should know? Anything else that you've been keeping to yourself, like who the hell Zeus is?" Cormorant's face reddened, but all he said was, "We're here, sir."
Chapter 26. Nana was alive. That's what mattered. It was all I cared about right now. But I did wonder why it was that when you lose someone, or are about to lose someone important to you, they become more precious than ever. It was hell waiting for her to come back from tests at the hospital. I had to sit for hours in a sterile, fluorescent-lit corridor, while my mind ran through every possible worst-case scenario, a bad habit of mine from work. I tried to fill my head with memories of Nana, going all the way back to when I was 10 and she had replaced my parents in my life. When they finally wheeled her out, it was a gift just to look into her eyes. She'd been unconscious when we arrived, and there had been no guarantee I would ever see her alive again. But here she was, and she was talking. "Gave you a little scare there, did I?" Her voice was weak and wheezy, and she looked even tinier than usual sitting up on the gurney. But she was alert. "More than a little scare," I said. It was all I could do to keep from squeezing the life back out of her. I settled for a lingering kiss on the cheek. "Welcome back, old woman," I whispered in her ear, just to make her smile, which it did. "Good to be back. Now, let's get out of here." Chapter 27. Once we got Nana settled in a hospital bed, the cardiologist on call came to meet with us. Her name was Dr. Englefield, and she looked about 50, with a compassionate face, but also the kind of professional detachment I've seen with a lot of specialists. She worked off Nana's chart while she spoke. "Mrs. Cross, your general diagnosis is congestive heart failure. Specifically, your heart isn't pumping enough blood into your system. That means you're not getting enough oxygen or nutrients, and that's most likely why you collapsed this morning." Nana nodded, not showing any emotion. The first thing she asked was, "How soon can I leave the hospital?" "The average stay for something like this is 4 or 5 days. I'd like to adjust your blood pressure medication and see where we are in a few days." "Oh, I'll be at home, doctor. Where will you be?" Englefield laughed politely, as if she thought Nana was joking. As soon as she was gone, though, Nana turned to me. "You need to speak with someone else, Alex. I'm ready to go home." "Is that so?" I asked, trying to keep it light. "Yes, that's so." She wagged her hand, trying to shoo me out of the room. "Go on, make it happen." This was starting to get uncomfortable for me. I'd never called any shots for Nana before, and now suddenly I had to do just that. "I think we should go with the doctor on this one," I said. "If a few nights in the hospital means we don't have to repeat this morning, then I'm all for it." "You're not listening to me, Alex." Her voice had changed in a beat, and she grabbed my wrist. "I'm not going to spend another day in a hospital bed. Do you hear me? I refuse. It's my right to do so." "Nana, no." She let go, and pointed at me with a shaking finger. I will not have that tone either. Now, are you going to respect my wishes or not? I'll get right up and do it myself if I have to. You know